You're still watching Prime Morning. It's time for us to delve into our divorce series for the month. This is the second episode. We know when we brought the first episode, so many calls, so many messages came in. People are really going through a lot. And so we are doing this. We don't want you to walk through this journey alone. It's a very difficult journey. We do understand. And so we are here to help you. Our lawyer is seated, and you can send in your messages or you can phone in when the phone lines are activated and ask all your questions. Last week, on Monday, when we started this series, he did tell us the 7 bases for divorce. He spoke a bit about first 3. We have another 4 to go with, and then we can delve into the deeper side of divorce. Now, I said earlier that is not an easy journey, and that is why we have brought this conversation to you. We are making sure that we bring the necessary resource persons to help you. Our lawyer for today is Sena Hoto. I hope I got his name right. Sena Hoto Esquire, who is a lawyer. Good morning, Sena.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Doing very well, thank you.
Great.
Yourself?
I hope I got your name right. Is it Hoto or Heto?
Hoto.
Hoto?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's nice. Your name is actually a nice one, I must say.
Thank you.
And we started this conversation on Monday. And we got a lot of feedback. People are actually going through a lot. Little did we know that this is something that can even become suicidal for a lot of people. And so we say thank you for giving us your time to be here this morning to help us walk this journey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
Now, on Monday, we started the conversation. You did tell us that there are 7 reasons or bases with which you can go to court to petition for divorce. You told us about 3 of them, and we have 7. Let's walk through the first 3, and then we go into the next 4.
Okay. So before I do that, I want to tell everybody that suicide is not an option. You should not get to that point where you feel like you don't have an escape, and so you want to end it. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going through this difficult situation with marriages, get in touch. Because of this, I will put my number up at the end of the show, okay, so that we can get interactive and see how we can assist throughout the process.
Thank you for that, actually.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Mm-hmm.
Now, back to the grounds for proving that a marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. Because remember, when you go to court, you're not going to tell the judge that your partner has committed adultery and so you want to leave. No. You are going to use that fact to prove that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. And so a quick recap of what we did on Monday. Now, the first point, the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. You are essentially telling the court that your spouse has committed adultery. You can prove it. Sometimes it's difficult to prove or have a video or recording of the actual acts being done. And so there is what we call circumstantial evidence, circumstances. So in some decided cases of the court, it's been said that when a married woman and an unmarried man, so when a married woman comes out from the room at, say, about 5 a.m., 6 a.m. with what the Nigerians call wrapper, or a cloth around her waist, and then coming out of the room and then looking awesome way, you can presume that adultery has occurred. And so when adultery occurs, there are a lot of homes that adultery occurs, but the partners, it's not as if they're okay with it, but it's not a deal breaker for them.
Yeah.
And so you must also convince the court that in legal language that you find it intolerable. So once you find it intolerable, it essentially means that you can't live with it anymore. And so you convince the court, and then the court will put its blessing on it for you, and then that marriage can be dissolved.
Let me ask you this before you continue. There are people practicing open marriage, and it gets to a point where one partner can't take it again. Can such a case go to court for divorce?
Yes, it can. The point is, when it comes to proving all the facts, either adultery, unreasonable behavior, any of them, there is an important aspect that we need to know. There is something called reconciliation period, so that if the person if you're having the open relationships, and then each of the partners are doing their own things, and you're all okay with it, at the point that you stop being okay with it, if the other partner continues, within 6 months of the acts being done, the acts that you have not consented to being done, which are either adulterous or of such nature, you can bring an action and then get a lawyer to file a petition for you. So you can actually do that.
Okay.
However, beyond the 6 months, the law presumes that you've forgiven him. So unless another act also occurs again, then you can rely on the second act that has occurred to, bring an action for the divorce.
All right. So number two. Number two?
So the second one we talked about was unreasonable behavior. And so one of the key things about unreasonable behavior is that the behavior of the spouse is so out of normal and regular that it puts a strain on your mental health. It makes you uncomfortable. Like I said last week, you're not going to the court to just tell the court that I prepared hot tea for my partner, and then they were so angry they didn't like it, they want cold tea, and so because of that I'm coming to get divorced. No, it must be weightier matters. So things that is considered unreasonable. One such incident that I can remember top of my head is excessive demand for sex.
Right.
So excessive demand for sex can amount to unreasonable behavior. So that if you request or demand for it so much that morning, afternoon, evening, and it's putting a strain on the health of the partner, and anytime they even see you coming,
they run away.
They're running away and they are scared. It gets that bad.
What about the type of sex?
Well, the laws of Ghana will not recognize a lot of the other types of
sex.
Yes, but
being illegal.
Yes, it has to be between a man and a woman.
No, I mean
and
the other type of sex, with the sense that like anal sex, oral sex. Maybe one partner is not comfortable with it, and they got into marriage, and the other partner says, "This is what I want," and the other partner says, "This is not what I want," and so it has to happen.
So anal sex is your ticket to jail. It is a criminal offense.
Right.
It is known in our statute book as unnatural carnal knowledge. And our courts have been very, very stern on it. And so when you're caught, you can actually go to jail for it.
Right.
And so you can't even force somebody to do an illegal act. And so some of those things are, people do it in hiding, but you can't even force somebody to do it.
So it's a basis for divorce.
Yes, it is. It is. It amounts to unreasonable behavior because it's illegal. And so why are you forcing your partner to do it? Even they doing it consensually doesn't take away the illegality aspect of it.
Right.
And so you forcing them to do it again can actually amount, the person can actually rely on that when they're filing their petition, and then they're telling the court that, my lord, my lady, my husband or my wife constantly is requesting for this particular act, and then I have refused, but it's a constant threat, and as much as I have refused, it's also an illegal act. You understand? So those are some of the things you can rely on, to prove that unreasonable behavior has occurred. Beating, when your partner beats each other, when they get physical.
Abuse,
as much as you can go to the domestic violence unit, the DOFSU, to get help. It is also a fact you can use to prove that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation.
One of the abuses that people complain that it's very difficult to prove is the emotional abuse. How do you prove that in court?
So if you're going to establish that you're suffering emotionally, so you will have to identify the incidents, how that is having a toll on your mental health. And these days, our medical facilities are able to help you. if you are having a medical or a psychotic breakdown, you've even gone to see counselors, you've gone to see psychologists, and then all of that. Those are evidences that you can put together to convince the court.
Right.
And then, like I said, when we're talking about evidences in this matter, we're not always looking for hard fact evidence. We're looking for circumstantial evidence, so that because before the emotional abuses and stuff like that, you were looking beautiful, you're always looking nice, you're always sharp. But then when the whole marriage thing began and then the abuses began, you lost your shine, you're not looking all good, your memory is failing, it tells on you. I mean, if you're able to put all those facts together, amongst others, you can be able to establish that you're having an emotional abuse at home. And that, amongst others, can amount to unreasonable behavior, which you can use to prove that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation.
Can a man who doesn't support the household financially be termed as an emotional abuser?
I would rather say that if you're not supporting the household, it's a stretch, but you can place it under unreasonable behavior, because one of the things we may talk about, depending on the time for today, is that a husband and a wife or parents have a responsibility under law to take care of their children. And so if you're not, aside from the action that can be taken in court to force you to do that, it is also your responsibility. And then if you're not doing that, it's an unreasonable behavior, not to take care of the innocent children that you have brought into this world.
All right.
So that's it.
So the third one.
So we talked about desertion the last time. And desertion is also a very popular way that you can rely on, a popular fact that you can rely on to prove that a marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. Now you're looking at a situation where you have either stayed with a person, then left your matrimonial home, left the union between the two of you without the consent of your partner, say for more than 2 years, then we can say that you have deserted your partner, because you have conjugal, responsibilities. You have the responsibilities at home. And so if you abandon all of that, it means that you're evincing or you're showing an intention that you do not want to stay anymore. And so if you have showed that intention, in law we say that you have deserted the marriage. And so if you're no longer interested, the other party can go to court and show all your acts of desertion and then rely on that to have the marriage dissolved. Again, if that act of desertion was as a result of the other partner's behavior or threat, then the person who caused the other spouse to move from the house cannot rely on that act and then say that a desertion has occurred. Let me give you an example. So you live in a house with your partner, and then they keep abusing you, and you feel like they keep telling you, there's actually a real life situation where the gentleman kept abusing the wife, and then every morning he tells her before he goes, today when I come, if I don't meet you in the house, if I come and the house is not in order, my short barrel gun in the room, I'll shoot you. I'll do that. And so the woman is always scared. When he's going, he locks them all inside. Nobody comes out. So one day the woman managed to steal a key, and then when the man left, she packed all her things, including her utensils, all the spoons, the cutleries and everything. She packed everything and then moved out to her parents' house. The man got furious and then went to court to file a divorce, saying that the woman has deserted him, and so they should annul, dissolve the marriage, and then also give him damages and stuff like that. The court said, no, you caused that behavior that forced your wife to go away.
All right.
And so you are the person responsible for her moving. And so her leaving the house does not amount to desertion. So you cannot rely on that particular fact to prove that the marriage has broken.
She can file for a divorce.
Yes. And
Okay.
she will not have to rely on desertion. She can rely on unreasonable behavior.
Okay.
Because the behavior and the act of the man is so unreasonable. Because you don't beat people up, you don't lock them up like animals, and then expect that you keep threatening them with shotgun and all of that. In fact, threatening people, threat to life is also a criminal offense.
It's also, yeah.
And so she can make a complaint to the police, and then, but narrowing the conversation to marriages and divorce, the man failed to prove that desertion had occurred, because the court said that he rather was in constructive desertion. He caused the woman to leave.
Now, you know, when you spoke about the desertion earlier, the first one was when you separate, you are not living together, maybe upon agreement. Now, sometimes it's upon agreement. There, especially those who have long-distance relationships. The man will say, oh, live in Ghana, I'm living abroad, I'm making some money, I'll bring home, I'll be home in a year, take care of you. He never comes back. 2, 3 years, 4 years, you're alone. I mean, can you stand on such a ground and say, he's deserted me, although I consented to the fact that I will live in Ghana and he will live abroad, or I'll live abroad and he'll live in Ghana?
Yes, so you can, you know, when desertion, when you want to rely on desertion, there are so many other facts you can use. You don't have to, and nobody says that proving this one is better than the other. So you must pick the one that can help your case. And that is not even for you to worry yourself about. That's why when you have an issue, you speak to the lawyer. So as you're describing your matter, it's as if the lawyer is scanning it through, is running it through all the 7 facts.
Okay.
And then you'll find what will be the best one to use to argue or advance your case for you. And sometimes the best one are 2 or 3. And all you need to prove is 1 in court. So if they are marshalling 2, 3 grounds together, then you can pick one. And so if the person went abroad, you cannot hear from them anymore.
No, they actually call you, but they are not coming home.
And so if they are not coming home,
and they are not picking you either,
and they are not picking you, the question will be, has the marriage broken down? Because that's the only grounds that you have to prove in court. Has the marriage broken down?
Let me ask you this. When you say has a marriage broken down, you haven't had any intimacy for probably 3, 4 years, 5 years. Is this what we call marriage?
So are you talking about intimacy as in they haven't had it before?
No, they've had it.
Okay.
But let's say the man traveled out to see greener pastures, or the woman traveled out to see greener pastures.
Yes.
And so there's not been any intimacy for close to 5 years. And the woman says, I'm tired. I can't do this again because I need you by me. And the man says, no, I need to seek for greener pastures. And he keeps promising. So understand, I'll come home, and he's not coming home.
And that brings us to the next fact that you can use to prove that a marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation. So it depends. If the partners they've been together for 2 years or 5 years, I'd explain it from 2. So when it comes to separation for 2 years and then for 5 years, there's usually no problem. You're not fighting. There is no desertion of a sort, because desertion is somehow similar to separation. However, you can say that under the separation, you're saying that there's no unreasonable behavior of a sort. You can also add the unreasonable behavior in your petition, though, but let's stick to this one from the scenario. So we're saying that he's been away for 5 years. Let's say 2 years, so that we can use it for the 2-year scenario. He's been away for 2 years, and then I'm tired. I don't think I want to go ahead with this again. Remember, you cannot force 2 people to be together when when one person is gone. A marriage is a union between two, not one and then maybe another. So once the other person is not ready to go, when it comes to the separation for 2 years, you need a consent, a written consent from your other partner.
Okay.
However, consent you cannot unreasonably deny consent to the other person. You have been away for that long.
I was going to ask you, I mean,
Yes.
if the person says, no, I'm not going to give my consent.
Yes, so that's why the law envisages that some of these things can happen. So it has a special provision that allows you to move on with the case, even if your partner is unusually or refusing to give you the consent. So once they are refusing to give you the consent, your lawyers will make further arguments in court, explaining to the court that, look, we're making this application. We understand that the requirement is that they must have been, the separation must be 2 years, and that will require consent from the other partner. But we can't hear from him. It's been that long. Or we speak to him, the marriage has broken down. He's probably having
Another family
somewhere for documentations and stuff like that. And I'm tired. I want to move on with my life. I can't keep hanging in there. I've tried, and he's using that as a punishment for me and not, trying to sign the consent for me. The court has the power to say that, okay, even though he has not signed, we will gloss over that requirement or assume that he has signed so that the petition can continue. Yes.
Anyway, so our next.
So the next one is the separation for 5 years. Now, when you have been separated for 5 years, it just looks like it's done.
Marriage is over.
The marriage is, because you've been separated for 5 years. And when I say separated for 5 years, it means that you are no longer living together as husband and wife.
Right.
So you can even be living in the same house. The husband is in another room, and then the wife is also in another room, and they've lived together like that. Nobody cooks for anybody. I mean, you just take care of the kids, and then like that. If that happens for like 5 years, and then you're all doing your own thing, you're all seeing separate people, and you're all okay with it, you don't need consent from the other person anymore. You can just go ahead straight and file your petition for divorce.
In that 5 years, it means that there shouldn't be any intimacy whatsoever within the 5 years,
No.
right? So even if there's one intimacy, it breaks it.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. The way the court looks at this whole thing is there are a lot of factors that the court looks at. Remember, I mentioned that there is what we call reconciliation, provision.
Mm-hmm.
Are you living together as husband and wife? Living together as husband and wife goes beyond intimacy. And so it takes all the factors together before coming to a conclusion. So it's not always like 1 + 1 is 2. You would have to consider whether there's a square root on top of the other one, or it's raised to the power something on the other one before you come to the conclusion. So in short, the court takes a holistic view of the issue before they pronounce whether the marriage has broken down such that, a decree of divorce can be issued. Because the courts are not in the business of breaking down homes. We are interested in saving families. We're not interested in breaking down homes. What we are interested in is, or what we are not interested in rather, is that we don't want people to be in homes that they are practically being abused such that it can affect their mental health, and that it's a threat to their life. Right. Because the nation has spent a lot of money taking care of you. Your high school, all those educations have been subsidized. Most university fees has been subsidized. And so the nation has spent a lot on you. So we don't want another citizen to come and put you in a situation where you may lose your life. So all that investment of the states on us goes down the drain. And so the state has that responsibility through the courts to protect us.
Is that why divorce proceedings are actually long?
So when you say long,
yeah, because
what is long?
So some people go to court for close to 5 years, some 3 years. I know some that have even done for 10 years.
A divorce proceedings?
Yes, a divorce proceedings.
Well, you see, sometimes people come up and say, oh, the divorce is taking so long and it's not happening. And then you go into the nitty-gritties of it, and then you find out that they were not attending the courts. Their processes had not been filed early, or even they were not paying their legal fees, so their lawyers were delaying or dragging,
right.
And then also it's a holistic thing. Yes, the courts are not as fast as we may want it, like what they say, the wheels of justice grind slowly, but eventually it gets there. I've seen divorces granted within 6 months. And so if it can be done within 6 months, then it tells you that it's not always slow. Okay. There are some divorce proceedings that has so many angles to it. There are so many kids from different mothers, and then there are properties involved, and then we need to make sure that everybody is duly represented, everybody gets what they are due, and then so on and so forth. And these things take time. And then you would have people, the parties, once divorce begins, there's a lot of acrimony. Okay. People are angry at each other. And so something that will take two people or an intermediary to join the two people to sit down and say, hey, you know what?
Let's talk about
this. Whatever we decide on, let's put it on paper and then let's give it to the judge. And then let the judge, you don't want, like a judge puts it, why would you want a total stranger to come and sit down and then tell you that you keep the kid, you don't keep the kid, you give this person? Unless you are not able to do it together, and which is most of the case, you can't do that together. And so those acrimonies and then the unusual dragging of the matter. So there is an interlocutory decision given within a divorce proceeding.
So that's what makes it a long process.
So when an interlocutory decision is given within the divorce proceedings, for example, let's say the issue of maintenance has been determined. One party is not happy. They appeal on just the maintenance thing. So the whole divorce will be stayed. The proceedings will be stayed. When I say proceedings will be stayed, the proceedings will not continue again temporarily, whilst they take just that aspect of maintenance to either the Court of Appeal for a determination. And if they are not happy with the Court of Appeal, they take that part again to the Supreme Court. And I've been involved in proceedings that some of the lawyers on the other side were actually using that tactics. And so you've had that proceeding.
So they use that tactic so they can get more money? Is that what it is?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Sometimes you believe in your client's case so much, and then you know that the decision of the trial court is not, it doesn't accord with your reason and then your belief in what the meaning or interpretation of the law should be. And if you believe in your client's case that much, yes, by all means, you should appeal that interlocutory decision, maybe even the entire decision which has been reached. So that's what happens.
Okay.
And so with all those back and forth, it can drag, and then the proceedings can last long.
All right. So now we go to the last three. We've done 4 so far.
No, I think we're left with 1.
We're left with 1? Yes. Okay, let's do the last one.
So the last one will be the inability to reconcile differences. So you have, in marriage, there are issues, there are differences, but people are able to settle it along the line, and then, you settle it, and then you continue with the marriage. However, there are some some issues or some problems within the marriage that you put in all the strategies, you discuss everything, you've gotten people involved, but both parties have entrenched positions and they are not interested.
Example.
Let me give you an example. Now, a woman or two people get married, and the woman has a medical condition that she's unable to give birth by herself. They've tried to, get pregnant for a long time. It's not working. And then the man is saying, hi, honey, can we try maybe IVF? Can we try some other means? Can you have a medical procedure? Maybe there's a blockade, and that's why, you are not able to get pregnant. Can we try this other option? And then the woman says no. Surgery part, it's not going to happen. And you know, based on the medical data available, you've spoken to your specialist, and they're telling you that's the only way. Can we adopt? No. It has to be me. And you know that the process, the person can't do it by themselves. And so that becomes an issue that both parties cannot, settle on. Party A says,
I want a child.
Yes, I want a child. I think I'm old. My parents are old. They want grandchildren. And then Party B says, in God's own time. And so I will not go under the knife. I will not choose any other alternative reproductive arrangements. I will not get a surrogate. These days, people are getting surrogates.
As well, yeah.
And maybe in the future, that's one of the topics I'd like to discuss with you. But these are alternatives. And then the other party says no. And if that becomes an issue that threatens the marriage, and then both parties feel like they cannot tolerate this particular positions, and that's a deal breaker. So you go your way, I go my way. You can rely on that fact and go to court. So you don't have to have had any unreasonable behavior. There shouldn't necessarily have been adultery or separation or desertion of the sort. You guys are all okay, but you cannot seem to agree on an issue, and that issue is huge enough to cause a strain on the marriage. Then you can go to court and rely on that and tell the court that, my lord, my lady, we can't seem to agree on this. And this is fundamental to me. Before we got married, we didn't think this was an issue. But now that we've gotten married, I think I want kids. And then she doesn't want kids, or she is unable to have kids at this point. And is not willing to do anything about it. Remember that inability to have children is not a ground, or you can't say that
it's a ground for divorce.
Yes, it's not. The fact that she cannot give birth,
or he cannot
give birth, is not something you can go to court on its own to say that, my lord, my lady, he can't give birth or she can't give birth, so I don't want to. There are other things that you must put together. Is there any other way that medically
we can go ahead
and still have a child? Unless you've gotten to that point where absolutely nothing can be done. You understand? And then you can move on from there.
What about, getting married and realizing that you can't consummate the very first night? Is there a ground for divorce?
If you haven't consummated the first night?
Yes, from first night.
You can even wait till the 10th night and do it. It doesn't matter.
But what if the man cannot get hard if he has a medical condition?
And it's not going to, throughout the marriage, he's not been able to consummate.
You go to doctors and doctor says nothing can be done about it.
If nothing can be done about it, and then you find it intolerable, and to you cannot go ahead with it.
How can you tolerate that for the rest of your life?
Well, we're all different, and different people have different reasons for getting married. Some are getting married for intimacy. Others are getting married for companionship. And so I would like to believe that there's somebody who will be okay with it. But consummation is critical It's one of the essential aspects of marriage, so that if consummation doesn't happen, there hasn't been a marriage. And so within a year, in fact, even outside a year, you can even get the entire marriage annulled, so that it will be struck off from the record as though you've never been married before.
All right.
Yes.
Well, we are still talking about divorce here. Is our divorce series for the month of July. And Senna, who is our lawyer this morning, has taken us through the 7 bases that you can stand on and say you are filing for divorce. So we're just going to walk through 1 to 7. Number 1,
adultery.
Adultery. Number 2,
unreasonable behavior.
Unreasonable behavior. Number 3,
desertion.
Desertion. Number 4,
separation. For 2 years.
For 2 years. Number 5,
separation for 5 years.
5 years. Number 6,
then inability to reconcile.
Inability to reconcile.
That's about
right. Okay. So we have walked you through 6 reasons or 6 grounds that you can actually stand on and say that you are going for a divorce. Is there a 7th one?
On top of my mind, I'll cross-check and then refer.
Okay, all right. Now, we have a lot of messages that have been pouring in since Monday, and we want to take a look at some of the messages. After that, we'll activate the phone line for you at home to join as well. So if you have any questions for Senna, who is our lawyer for this morning, you can send in your messages either via text message, WhatsApp, or call us. We are here to hear you. Let's take our very first message. What if your partner doesn't want to grant you the divorce? Can you nullify the marriage on solo, that is you alone, and maybe go elsewhere to get married again? That is our very first question. Sana?
Okay, so if your partner doesn't want to agree to the dissolution of the marriage, the question for me is, can you establish any of the facts that you can use to prove that the marriage has broken down? And has the marriage broken down? Those are the most important thing. Nobody can have an entrenched position that I will not grant the divorce. These days, your granting of the divorce is not in your purview.
Okay.
It is a court that grants divorce. And so if you are not willing and able to cooperate or reply or answer the divorce petition that has been filed on you, the process will continue. And every allegations of fact or averments that has been made against you, if you don't come and defend them in court, it will go in the public record against you. So
how true is it that if you miss court proceedings 3 times, they can just go ahead and, pass the judgment?
Yes, because the courts, there's a lot of issues in court. And then the rules of court, depending on where you find yourself, whether the CI 47, the CI 59, amongst others, depending on where you find yourself, there are rules. And for some of the courts, if you have brought a case to court and then you haven't showed up once, you've not showed up twice, you've not showed up 3 times, it means you're not ready to, pursue the case.
So the courts will pass a judgment?
Will make an order or will strike your case out. When you're ready, you can relist it.
What if it's not you, but it's rather your partner that filed for it, but you have decided to absent yourself from the proceedings 3 times, consecutive
times? So your partner files, and then you that is the respondent you have in the case will continue. So divorce proceedings are not one of those that you can give a summary judgment. So because you didn't come, I have ruled against you. No, you still must prove that the marriage has broken down. Say your version of it. So once you've said your version of it, the court will listen to it. Remember I said that the court is also an obligation to protect marriages.
Right.
And so the courts will not just
listen to your side of the story, one side.
Once the other person has decided they will not be a part of the process, and then you are continuing, you need to listen to your full story and then come to the conclusion that yes, you have established the fact and you have proved that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation, and then grant the divorce.
All right. And next question, can you and your partner register your marriage without any family or traditional right, nor even a family member as a witness?
Yes. You can go with your friend.
Okay.
One witness, he comes with a witness. You go to the registrar general's, the registrar of marriages office, and then you do it. In fact, last weekend a friend of mine did that. So
You didn't go with a family member?
well, she did, but you can do that without your family member. You can do that.
And it's just one witness you need?
Everybody, each party needs a witness.
Oh, I thought it was supposed to be two witnesses. I see. Okay, our next question, we got married 1st of September 2018 and I got pregnant 31st December the same year. So January 2019, he said he can't be in the same room with me for no reason and left me. So I went to stay with my auntie till I gave birth. After delivery, life wasn't easy, but one thing that encouraged me is I know God. I will be in my room every day praying using Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 to 6. To God for help. The depression alone with this child is killing me, honestly. Please, I'm very young to go through this mess. I need your help.
I think she needs a counselor or somebody to help her through this very difficult time. You know, when people are in situations like this, they can even get suicidal. And like I've said, you should never get to that point. And so reach out to someone, get help. I'm sure
But is
you
this
can.
a ground for divorce?
The question is, has the marriage broken down beyond reconciliation? You know, sometimes the situation happens like this and then they resolve it. And so I don't even want to get to the point of divorce.
Right.
Because before you even go to court for divorce, the court will ask you, what have you done to try to remedy the situation?
Okay.
And so now it looks like she's having, you know, a situation that she needs help. And so if we can refer or recommend, you know,
A counselor,
you know, or a psychologist or somebody that can help her so that she's not a danger to herself and then the child, unborn child.
My name is Gloria Fuasaki. My husband divorced me for no reason with one child and I would like to share, please. Okay, so this is the same thing. We got married on the 1st of September. What we read. Oh. Okay, so the husband has left her.
Okay.
So, and it looks like she's going through a lot. She's young.
The husband has left her and she's divorced. What happens to... There are a lot of questions that are still unanswered within this question. She says there's a child involved. Who has custody of the child? The properties involved. Did she get something out of it? There's so much, and what is the nature of the help that she wants, the clarification that she needs? Well, I'm happy to have this discussion with her after the show.
Okay, so we got married. My name is Diana. My husband and I are divorcing. We are done with the traditional one, but we are left with the court one, okay? We got married on 3rd July 2021. 3 months after our wedding, my husband stopped having sex with me. Whenever I asked him what the problem was, he doesn't say anything. So I stopped making attempts thinking he would come around. He didn't come around till it got to 7 months. Still, whenever I go to him, he's always not in the mood. A lady begging for sex, like how he never mind me till it got to 1 year and he told me the age difference is not helping us, so we should go our separate ways. Wow.
Is that the end of the message or it continues?
Okay, so it continues.
Yeah.
So I told my parents about it. My dad invited my husband to ask what the problem was. He still didn't say what the problem was. So I asked my parents to take the ring and the other things to his people, since he wasn't ready to voice out what the problem was. So after returning his ring, his brother said we can go and do inquiries at the court and see how we can divorce there. So I went to the court this year in March, wrote my complaint, and they gave him a letter for him to come to court. So we went to the court, we saw the judge, and the judge told us our marriage is young, so we should go and come back when our marriage is 2 years.
So I'm sure she's watching or listening. Now, there is an exception to the 2-year rule. And so if she can prove or establish that she's suffered undue hardship, and then amongst others, if she's able to establish that, she can actually bring a petition under 2 years.
Okay.
So if she's still under 2 years, and it appears that the traditional dissolution has already happened, which for me, it makes the family happy, but it has no force of law. So once they have had an ordinance marriage, a marriage in church, the family dissolution is good for the family, but it has no force of law until it is done in court.
So what is the hard facts we are looking for here, the exception of the rule of 2 years?
So we're looking whether within that 2 years or under the 2 years, there's a threat to her life. Is she suffering undue hardship? So once we can ultimately establish that there is that, hardship that she's suffered or she will suffer.
She's going through maybe a psychological issue,
exactly.
mental breakdown.
We don't want to wait till 2 years. You may not even be alive for that 2 years. And so once the court assesses the situation, and then we put together, leave to ask the court. So before we file that petition, we'll prepare the documents and then ask the court for, in law, when we say leave, it's like permission to bring the petition under 2 years. And then in our affidavit, we will explain to the court what the situation is, telling the court what you have suffered, and then what will happen. Explain to the court that if they want us to wait for 2 years,
she could go suicidal, she could take her life.
Yes, we may not even have a person to come to the court after the 2 years. And so we pray to the court to listen to us and then give us the permission to bring the action. And in most of the times they do.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next message coming in, we do have a lot of messages that have come in. Okay, so let me check, if there's anything on the tablet as well, to check if we have some messages coming in. But then, Sana, one question I wanted to ask you earlier before we went on to this, when we're speaking about the fact that when there's no consummation, and you said that on that ground it's a complete separation.
Yes. No, a nullity.
A nullity.
So you can rely on that to annul the marriage, but it has to be done within a year of the marriage, being contracted.
But in case where, there is a situation where the man keeps pleading that, give me a chance, give me an opportunity, but you still stand your ground, you can still file for divorce?
So marriage is a union of two. And the two must be added, as in they must have the same mind that they are going to be together. And so the moment one person leaves, there is no marriage. And so if the person is apologizing and then begging and then all of that, if you accept, that's fine and all good and graceful.
Okay.
But if you don't, you can rely on it to...
Right. Another message coming in, Sami Boache Asaman Kese says, good morning indeed, everybody is equal under the law, regardless of their status. Okay, no, let me go for this one rather. 1 second. Okay. I'll have to read another one, and not this one. This is for, I think, the previous segment. And so let's just continue with, the things that we go through when we have to divorce. Because the thing is, you are there, you think that I can go to the court of law to prove this. Now, when I asked you earlier about the absenteeism in court and the court granting you, or granting judgment because of that, I have a friend who was going to court. She was seeking for divorce. The lawyer told the gentleman, don't go to court. It will prolong it for you. And the judge said, because you are not attending court proceedings, unfortunately, I'm going to have to, pass judgment. Can't that happen? Because you said that we are not here to let divorce happen. We are here to make sure it works. So until we hear the other party. But this way, the other party, and it's a trick that some of the lawyers tell their clients, don't go to court.
But you see, what your friend didn't tell you was what stage they had reached in the whole proceedings. When we're at the end of the proceedings, and then you decide that you won't come at that end so that the issue will be prolonged. All the evidences have been taken. All the cross-examinations have been done. So every information the judge needs to come to a conclusion that they believe your story over the other person's story, such that the divorce will be granted or not, has already been obtained. So if you don't come, the judge can,
pass judgment.
Yes, because
so now that trick is not working like it used to work in the past, right?
It depends on what stage of the trial you pull that trick up your sleeves.
Okay.
So that is.
Now, what if you pull it off your sleeve from day one?
That's a trick of the trade that we'll keep away like that.
Because I know it's a trick that they use.
Yeah, so depending on who I'm representing, because my interest is my client and what they need.
Okay.
And so what my client needs is what I need to advocate for. So as much as I am also interested in advancing my client's case, I'm also an officer of the court. And so I'm also interested in justice being done, and I'm also interested in ensuring that we don't make a mockery out of the court.
Right.
You understand? Because at the end of the day, it's the last institution we have that is still standing, that is fair, and that is giving out rulings that we can all rely on. When everything goes to south, when everybody is confused, it's the courts we rely on.
Right.
And so that's what I can say.
Okay, so more messages coming in. Hi, my name is Claudia. I became pregnant, got married to this, and delivered a girl. Though he wasn't interested in the pregnancy, but family brought us together because of the child. It got to some time when he started refusing to take care of the child, especially the time my daughter was having convulsions all the time. This guy left me alone to take care of all the hospital bills and other things, so I finally couldn't take it and I have to pack back to my parents' house. We later reunioned and another child came, and that is where the problem is. This time round, he came out with a lot of useless complaints and finally told me that we should separate. Now, my question is, can I file a complaint for him not to get closer to the kids, even in future, because he hasn't paid my bride price yet?
Okay. So, am I understanding the question to be that they are not married?
They are not married. She had a first child with him.
Okay.
And family said, move in with him and live together.
Okay.
He wasn't taking care of the girl, so she moved back home. Then I think upon talks, the relationship, is sparked again. She moved back, had a second child, and she realized it was still not working. And now she's moved back to her parents' home, and she doesn't even want him to see the children because he's not performing his responsibility as a father.
Okay. So if a father is not performing their responsibilities, there is a process in law that you can, take advantage of, because a person is responsible for taking care of their children. And that responsibility, yes, is not only on the father's shoulder, it is for the parents or the people who brought the child into the world, or the child's guardian, to take care of the child. And so you can make an application to the court, and then you tell the court that this is the person's child, and we want you to make orders so that he will take care of his child. Sometimes the court can even make orders, and then it can be attached on your bank account. They'll serve it on where you work, and then they'll put a debit on your account. Anytime payments are made, a debit goes to take care of the kid.
Okay. So you stop this whole thing and preventing him from seeing his children. Just go to court and court.
You can't prevent a person from seeing their child. unless they are a danger to that child.
And that's a mistake most parents make.
Yes, you can't force. So as much as you are pushing that he takes up his responsibility, he also has rights. And so unless it is a danger or that person is a danger to the child, even if the danger is the woman, if the woman is a danger to the child can be given to the man.
Okay.
Understand? So.
Right. Good morning. My name is Amando from JJT. Please ask the lawyer if one can file for divorce where the other partner is constantly denying the other partner intimacy for no apparent reasons.
So there's a short answer and a long answer to this. So the short answer is yes, the person can file the petition. The long answer is we need a lot more information, because ultimately the ground to prove in court is not that you are not getting intimacy or not. Is that the marriage has broken down beyond reconciliation.
Okay.
And so we need a lot more information to establish or prove that, ground. And so this 4-liner sentence is not enough. And so if he can call after the show or get in touch, we can take it from there.
You have been married and lived for some time with kids. Then your father-in-law brings back traditional drinks one day that his daughter says she is not interested in the marriage. What do you do when the marriage is confirmed by ordinance also?
Like I said, as soon as ordinance comes in, the taking of the drinks, returning of the drinks just become like just to make our family happy.
There's a follow-up. The couple marriage by ordinance in Ghana and their children were born in USA. Where does the divorce process start to determine separation, children custody, and distribution of assets, if any? This is a follow-up for my first question. Thanks.
Okay. So first of all, let's start with the first question. So as soon as the marriage is converted into ordinance, the whole thing about customary marriage falls away. So there's no drinks to even bring back in the first place.
Right.
So the drinks that the father-in-law purportedly brought back is all well and nice. It adds up to showing in court that even the marriage has broken down. The families have even tried to have this whole thing settled. However, it's not enough. And so following up with the question, once the marriage was contracted under Ghanaian law, it will be dissolved under Ghanaian law. And then the properties and all of that will be settled under Ghanaian law. Okay. The properties that are here would all be settled under. So we've had, couples or partners come from abroad to come and have, their weddings ceremonies and all ceremonies of that, right? Here. So if you flew all the way from Miami and then you're here to contract the marriage, if it's time to break it down,
you have to come back.
Back. Wow. Or you can have a representative standing for you in court, and then the process can go on.
Hello, please. Mine is a question. How do you file for a divorce when after a year of marriage you realize the baby you have with your wife isn't yours, but another?
You anchor it on the first ground. Adultery. One of the ways to prove adultery is if there's a baby from another person. Okay. Because that's the surest evidence that it wasn't you. Because nobody, comes up with a baby by themselves these days. Maybe in the olden days, in those times.
What if the baby was swapped at the hospital?
Yes, so it's also possible. So that's why when some of these things come up, immediately, as much as we're lawyers, we're not in a hurry to go to court. We want to find out what is the issue. You're claiming that this child is not yours. What is the basis for saying that that child is not yours? Let's conduct a DNA. Because when we're going to court, it's a court of law. Evidence is the name of the game. Right. So you need to be able to prove, using DNA evidence, that baby is not yours. And when you're able to establish that baby is not yours, the other thing that we would have to look for is that, were you aware that she was pregnant for another person before you got married? Or were you aware that that baby was someone else's before you got married? So there are a lot of dynamics that come in.
So then it means that adultery can actually break the 2-year rule. Is that it? Because they've been married for under a year and he got to know the baby is not his.
So you cannot bring it within a year.
So that case is not for...
No, this one will not fall under the year rule.
Okay.
Unless there is...
So this is for 2 years?
Yes, this is for 2 years. Unless there's a lot more information that we're not privy to. But the facts as it is here now, it doesn't suggest or look to me that it can be brought under a year.
Okay, right. Okay, so it's a very good one. Now, there's this separation. Let's go into separation. I have another question. Let's go into separation.
All right.
The whole point of when there's separation, the man is responsible to either rent or take care of shelter for the woman because she's moving out of the house. Is that supposed to be it?
So when you say separation...
Yes, where the woman leaves the house and says, I don't want to marry you again. But if you want to see your children, then you ought to rent a place for me to stay or buy me a house for the children so we stay in that house before you can see your children.
So separation is on its own, is unknown to our laws, so that we can say that you are legally recognized as separated. No. But you are using separation to prove that the marriage has broken down so that you can, go your separate ways. And so you cannot, unless you have an order from the court saying that the man should pay XYZ or the woman should pay XYZ to take care of the child and then provide a home. So it's not
the man's responsibility, it's not?
No. It is a child of both of you. And so both of you have that responsibility. And when we get to that part of custody, hopefully next week,
right,
we will discuss a bit more details into some of these things. But
we have a very first caller, so let's go on the line.
Okay.
We're going all the way to Sotom. Hello, good morning, Michael.
Hi, Jocelyn. You look very beautiful this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you. What do you have to tell us this morning?
Thanks for bringing Shana to the show. A very beautiful conversation. I just love the conversation. But I have a very brief question to ask.
Please go ahead.
I want to know if, like, for instance, you have been married for 5 years and looking at the woman's behavior and you want a divorce and it seems like she herself also wants a divorce, and looking at the attitude towards you, she doesn't respect you. She's very proudful. She doesn't contribute to everything that you do. But you want she give you signal that she wants divorce. But finally, you are asking for mutual divorce. The two of you should agree, come to the agreement so that you can divorce. She doesn't want you to go for. She doesn't want to go for the mutual divorce, but she wants you to go and bring the divorce, and she will bring the papers for her to sign. What should be done? Like, for instance, like I said, let me repeat my question again. You have been married. She doesn't respect you. She doesn't contribute to everything. You have 2 kids. But you have been wondering everything, taking care of the kids, their fees, everything you want to talk about. And she has been very disrespectful towards you, very proudful and everything. I don't want to say that I have been good per se, but she gives you signal that she doesn't want a marriage, and you also don't want a marriage. But now you are asking for a mutual divorce. The two of you will come together and go to the court to divorce the marriage. But she said you should go and bring it and she will sign. What should be done on this?
All right, Michael, thank you so much. Sana?
Okay, Michael, thank you for the question anyway, but it's desirable to have mutual consent in commencing the process of divorce, but it's not a requirement.
Okay.
Especially now that she's willing that if you bring it, I'll participate in the process. That is consensual enough for me. It's okay for me. So you can actually go ahead and then commence that process. besides listening to him and getting more information, already the information he's providing, like I told you, when you start talking to the lawyer, all the facts are arranged in his head. And then as it goes, it keeps marking one of the point. And I seem to have his concerns situated on the second ground, which is the unreasonable behavior. So amongst others that we can look at, unreasonable behavior pops out top of my head. And so I think that after the show, I'll put my number up. Michael, get in touch, and then let's
see how best you can help. Let's go all the way to Kumasi. Hello, good morning, Mavis.
Good morning.
Yes, how are you?
Fine, thank you, and you?
Fine, thank you, Mavis. Talk to us.
Okay. My question is, my parents, let me put it that way, the man is my stepfather. They've been married for more than 20 years, and the man traveled outside. So it turned out that there wasn't any issue, but he started behaving in a way like he wasn't taking care of my mom, he wasn't taking care of my care sister. She's the biological daughter of both of them. So it's been going on for more than 15 years. Sometimes he will come back to Ghana and go back and will not speak to my mom for maybe 2 years until he returns. When he is coming, he doesn't call. He just comes to the house. And so lately, about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, he told my mom that they should register the marriage in court. So he wasn't around. So he sent his signature and called the KMA for them to do it. So later on, when he came back, he started having an affair outside, and it came to light. So he told my mom he wants to sell the house that we're staying in so that they can share the money and they can go. He doesn't want divorce. He's not saying they should divorce, but he can't stay with my mom.
Wow.
So my mom said, okay, if we can't stay together as couples, then there should be a separation so that we can go our separate ways. So let's go and strike the ordinance marriage that we did. He said he sent a fake signature, so my mom can't use that against him. The signature he sent for the people at KMA to use was fake, so she cannot use that against him. And so there is nothing like they are married in court, so it's not counted. So I want to know how my mom can get something out of this, because right now the man he still wants to share the house they built together. Whenever my mom brings about, he will tell my mom that he didn't ask her to put money into that construction. So he has nothing to share with her.
Mavis, okay. Sana will answer all of that because this is quite deep. Sana, I think this one, dear, proper consultation. No?
Yeah, as for this one, I'll give an overview, and then I think we need to, I need to get in touch with her and see how best we can dissect the issues. But the fundamental thing is that a marriage is a marriage, whether it is done customarily or it is done under the ordinance. The main difference is that under customary law, you can marry more than one. The rights that will accrue to a person who marries under customary law is the same that will accrue to the person who marries under ordinance. And so property, distribution of property, it doesn't change because you have married under customary law or you married under the ordinance. And the issue of whether or not he sent his signature and then all of that, that can be, it doesn't even affect distribution of property in any way. In any case, if the ordinance marriage, let's just assume worse, that the ordinance marriage was not validly contracted, and so it's not recognized. Worst case scenario, the customary law marriage still exists, and there are laws on properties acquired during marriage, and what happens when there is a dissolution, who gets what. When a person contributes, even if they hadn't contributed financially towards the acquisition of the property, and it was acquired during the pendency of the marriage, they have a stake in it.
Right.
So for them to go ahead and even contribute.
So I think the issue is to do with, she has contributed, the man says no divorce, so I'm not going to give you anything. I think some people run away or shy away from divorce just because of sharing of properties. But I have another caller on the line. Let's pick that call. And then we have a lot of messages as well, so we'll read some of the messages. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Yes, your name and where you're calling us from. Selma, okay. Talk to us,
Hello?
Selma. Yes, talk to us, Selma. How are you?
Okay, I'm fine, thank you. So I married a man, but then he's a divorcee. So he has been married traditionally and then in the church. So they had a divorce in the court, but then I'm not a Ghanaian, so in my place, I know that when you marry traditionally, you have to also dissolve the marriage traditionally. But then he said in Ghana, once you divorce with the court, it means it nullifies the traditional one. So is that true, or should I be worried about
All right, Thelma, thank you so much.
Traditional one?
Thank you so much for your call. Sen, I'll answer that. But before that, let me read this one. How does one go about a situation where a partner decides to relocate alone to another country after 6 months separation, leaving the wife and kids for 8 years, does not communicate much but takes care of the children? He doesn't intend to return and is reluctant for the family to join. Can I serve him a divorce in another jurisdiction? How do I go about it? So let's answer Thelma's own first.
So, sorry, if you can give me a recap of.
Okay, so with Thelma, she's married to a man who is a divorcee. The man says, by court, he's divorced, but they didn't divorce traditionally. And if you do it by court, it nullifies everything else. So she wants to know if it's true or he's still married traditionally.
No, he's not.
Okay.
I mean, once you do it by court, it runs everything away.
Okay, all right. So what the man said is true. Now the next one.
So, were they married?
Yeah, from what she said, he says
under Ghanaian law.
Okay.
First thing. If you check that box, yes. The next question is that, can you bring the petition against him here? Yes, you can. You can do it under Ghanaian law. The rules of court permit service of the notice of a writ or a petition on a person that is outside the jurisdiction. These days, we even use video link for to give evidence in court, to do all of that. So you can be in Russia, Calcutta, India, wherever you are, and then it's more like a Skype or
a
Zoom thing, and then you have your proceedings here in Ghana. You don't even have to fly all the way here to do that. So it's possible.
Technology has made things very possible.
Yes.
Our next caller, hello, good morning. Okay, let me go read other comments and then we come back to the phone line. Please, can a man get married to another woman as he was going through a divorce proceedings in courts? Yes or no? No, good. No. We separated for years my husband and I separated for years from me, and he went in for another woman for 12 years. I told the woman we are legally married, and she didn't care after he passed, and I sent a letter for her to vacate the house. She sent me to court for threatening her, but I've thrown her out by law. Okay, so simply put,
like I said, the concept of separation is only relevant to prove that a marriage has broken down. But there's nothing like we've separated under law. If you haven't gone and completed the divorce proceedings, you're still married.
No matter the number of years?
It doesn't matter if it's 20, 30 years. You're still married.
Right. Okay. So she had the right to throw the woman out of the house.
Throwing somebody out of the house has to go through a process.
Okay.
You don't go yourself and then throw people out of the
So
house.
can the
You
woman
need an
take
order.
her to court?
Yes, the woman can do that. But as whether she'll be successful is another thing. But
All right.
yes, she can.
Okay, so with that, there's more. Said, and now that the DNA results is out, the wife has now confessed the pregnancy was for another married man she was dating whilst they were making preparations to get married. It's for the other one.
Okay, so clearly means that he wasn't aware.
Right.
So he wasn't aware that the woman was pregnant before they got married. So yes, that's a proof that adultery has happened.
Things are really happening.
So there's a lot.
Okay.
But he should get in touch after the show so that we'll see how we can help.
Yes, please do get in touch and let's see how best we can help you. You know, it's quite. I'm just looking at some of the messages and I'm like, okay, a lot of people are going through a lot, and that's why we are here for you to make sure that we can help you through this particular journey. Another caller coming in. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing great. You look so beautiful today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Anyway,
Yes,
I
your
just
name,
got
please,
married.
before you continue. Your
My
name.
name is Shadi James.
Okay, Dujenfi, please continue.
I guess I married this October last year.
Okay,
I married this October last year.
all right.
Yeah, and we did it under the traditional marriage. I wanted to get the court proceeding for the marriage so that it becomes legal. But I believe I want to get married again. Is it wrong?
Okay, Sana.
Okay, so if you have married under customary law or traditionally, as Mr. Edujemfi is saying, you can marry as many as you can conveniently, take care of. Remember, you have to take care of your family. The customary laws vary from community to community.
Okay.
And so you have to, in some communities, if you want to marry another person, you must compensate the first wife, give them something as compensation.
Yeah.
It is not for
So
the first wife to say, I won't do it, I won't agree or not. But if you don't, the first wife can go ahead and then get the family members to compel you to give them something as compensation because they are entitled to it. So if you can afford it.
What if you go for the marriage certificate? Because I know that, the traditional marriage, you can actually go for a marriage certificate.
Yes, you can register the marriage. If you register the marriage, it is just to prove that you have been married under customary law. But it doesn't make it an ordinance marriage.
Okay.
So your spouse can marry as many as he can. I'm saying he...
And when you register that marriage, do you now become a Mrs.?
Oh, you're a Mrs. with or without the registration.
Okay.
You understand? So the registration just helps for purposes of documentations and then for record. So that tomorrow, if there's a dispute, you can say that, hey, this is something to prove.
Okay.
If it so happens that the man gets married to you customarily in some hiding, and then later, when he's no more, the family says, we don't know you. You were not married to him. You can show.
Right.
You can
okay. Hello. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Joel. How are you?
I'm doing well, yourself.
Fine. Thank you, Joel. Talk to us.
Actually, this is not really about myself, about my sister.
Okay.
She's been with this man for over 15 years now. They have a child. He's 12 years now. And they are currently living together. But then the man also have another child who is also 10 years, and my sister takes care of the two. But then I don't know whether to describe it as verbal abuse. There's been this consistent insult anytime there is a little problem, both on the children and that of my sister as well. And he has been doing other things outside also, which my sister has seen, literally. So I wanted to ask if there is any legal way of dealing with this
They are not married. Then I don't know if there is any way to go about it.
They are not married. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So like a restraining order, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sana?
He wants to restrain the father of the children
Because
from
he's verbally abusive to the woman.
to the woman.
Yes.
So is he restraining for the woman or for the children?
For the woman.
Yes, it's possible.
Okay.
It's possible.
It's possible to do that. Now, another thing is, people often feel that when you go to court first to file for divorce, you stand a chance of losing your properties to the other person. How true is this?
It's not true. You know how we say in our local settings that the woody kind kwa him fear and interest or to wait that if you hurriedly go to the chief's palace to go and bring up an issue or say your matter there, it doesn't mean that you have a good case. So the court is a court, especially all courts around the world, especially in our Ghanaian courts, it's a court of justice. It's a court where fairness is done and showed. And so when you come before the court, it's not because you came first. You must prove your case.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So
because, some people say, oh, you should go and file if you want a divorce. And you should. Meanwhile, you also don't want the marriage.
Yes. I think the people do that because of conscience. They don't want to feel that I'm the one who started the process.
So it's not money
No,
issues.
it's not so much about if I go first, it means I will.
What about those who also think that when you go first, you're the one who cover the bills, both lawyers' bills?
No.
It's not so.
So when it comes to the bill, the court can even order either the husband or the wife to pay for the bill of the other party.
Okay.
So pending litigation. So the partner is going through the divorce. She can afford it, and it is a strain on her mental health, and it's going to potentially affect her life as to whether she can stay or not, but she can't afford it. So it's like a prison for her, and then you can afford it. You have a lot of money and a lot of that. The court can order that you pay for it.
Right. Now, this is a very interesting question. Can my mom put our house for sale because my dad doesn't take care of us and he has committed adultery and still wants to take our house from us? The house is not in their names, although it's in my kid sister's name. This is dicey, isn't it?
It is. I think for this one, we'll talk to her off the line. I'm saying that because, you see, there are some situations that if it's between siblings and their parents and all of that, you want to try to help to resolve it in a less acrimonious way. So that at the end of the day, you don't solve a problem and create another problem. So you would solve the problem and then everything dies out quickly. So once I put the numbers on the screen, she can get in touch and then we'll see how we help.
Sana, thank you so much for being here this morning. Before you go, your number has been requested for more than 100 people. You can't go without putting your number out there.
Definitely.
Yes.
So I will put up a number that you can reach me on for work purposes. So 0242 577 485. 0242 577 485.
All right. So, please mention it again.
0242 577 485.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much because they have written the number. Sana, thank you so much for being here this morning.
I'll keep my phone supercharged.
Please do. And for those of you who couldn't get in your messages to us or we couldn't read your messages, don't worry at all. The divorce series is on for the whole month of July. If you couldn't send in your message today, you can still send it in because we have the series continuing on Monday and we continue. So all your questions, do send it to us. We'll ask them. And of course, the professionals will answer the questions. Thank you so much for sticking with us.